Okay. There is no shame in being single. Sister girl, nobody's putting so much weight on you to get married. I think it's an African thing where we get to a certain age and we begin to expect things to be done a certain kind of way. Not just an African thing, but I think it's a kind of a human expectation thing where we expect things done at every point in our life. But when it comes to Africa, Nigeria, most importantly, when when a female child gets through from college and or whatnot, if you've gone for youth service, the next thing your parents wants from you is for you to get married. And to be fair, things are really, really advancing. Our expectations and our ideas are advancing. Our exposure is advancing. The things we hold in high esteem is advancing by the day. And people don't want to be held accountable for some certain things. But as long as marriage is concerned, there are concepts and principles on how things are to be done as long as marriage is concerned. And one of such concept is you coming to submit under another authority. Another authority, it's been the man. And for some of you don't even know that marriage is actually a religious thing. Yeah, it's actually a religious thing. It's actually a Christian thing. Because marriage was first instituted by God, and so every other people begins to copy it. And so whether you are a believer or you're not a believer, or whether you decide to go to court or to go to somewhere else to get married, the moment you decide to get married, there is a concept. Even when people say that they don't believe in Christianity, or they don't believe in church, when they try to do marriage the way they think they know how, out from wherever they are coming from, you find out that at the end of the day, they mess things up, because marriage, as every other institution, has guidelines, rules, manuals on how it ought to be done. Now, when you are a woman and you feel like you don't want to feel entitled to anybody, you don't want to feel accountable to anybody, you don't want to submit to anybody, you don't want to be answerable to anybody, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't just get married. Don't just get married, because what marriage is marriage is it's a whole body in itself, and every body or any movement in itself requires a leader. It requires a leader. It requires a certain accountability. And so that leader, that governing body, that leader of that governing body, it's the man. And there's no two ways about it. You can take it from nobody. There's no two ways about it. And so if you decide not to get married, that means you don't want to be under anybody, and you don't want to submit under anybody. It's okay to go live your life on. All right, but I assure you, if you decide to get your feet in the deep waters of marriage, and even if you find a man who you think, in your opinion, it's well versed and exposed and understands that you cannot submit to him, or like you guys will put it these days, that unquote knows that we are both equal. And even if you find such man, I promise you, what you are getting yourself into, it's not something you're going to enjoy. It's not something you're going to enjoy. And I say this because sometimes it's not even the fault of our women or people or certain people not to, want this thing called marriage. It's not even their fault. When you grow up in a home where what marriage is supposed to be, what love is supposed to be, what unconditional love is supposed to be, what being submissive or being accountable, what it is supposed to look like, when you grow up in such home where it is not properly modeled in front of you, it is kind of understanding when you don't desire it, when you don't look out for it, when you don't yearn for it. All right, and so when we look at some of the people who are broken, who are dysfunction in our society today, you find out that the family where they are coming from, certain things were not modeled in front of them, certain things were not portrayed in front of them, and so you see that the passion for it is not there, the drive for it is not there. They don't look out for it, and as long as human being is concerned, there is no vacuum in us. And so whatever it is that was broken, or whatever hole it is that such dysfunction did to you, there is every tendency to want to try to fill it up with something else. And so in the midst of that confusion, people try to fill it up with something else, like getting in same-sex marriage. We have heard cases of people, getting married to animals, people making out with animals, and all of that. All of these things are dysfunction. All of these things are issues, that originated from the home, where certain things were not cultivated properly, where certain things were not placed in their proper perspective. Some of these people are people that were damaged, from the home, and so they grow up. Society begins to expect so much from them, and they cannot give it because certain things were not properly, done from the home, and so it all boils down to what happens in our home, what happens in our families. I want us to understand that once you decide to be a parent, that there are that your life moves from you thinking out for yourself, and mostly thinking out for the well-being of other people. Now, the well-being of somebody else is your son, is your daughter, all right? The well-being of your son is your daughter. And so what you make out of them, your children turns out to be a reflection of either your success or your failure. All right, it turns out to be. So we cannot be too busy, not to realize certain things. We cannot be too busy for our children. We cannot be too busy for our loved ones. We cannot be too busy for our family. All right. So let us have that at the back of our mind, that what we consider marriage is beyond us. It's beyond us. It's not just about you and your wife. Marriage, it's about how the family, or how our world is going to turn out to be. See, have you not noticed that the dysfunction that we face every day, the problem that we face every day in our community, the issues that goes unattended to in our community. Have you ever sat down to realize that all of these things comes from people, and these people were people that were being given birth to? These people most of them came from a home. I think it will not be fair to say that most of them came from a home, but you have to understand that those people who turned out to be a thorn in our flesh in the society, they didn't just wake up one morning and grew from the grass. Somebody gave birth to them. Somebody gave birth to them. And when they were given birth to, they were left unattended to. And so they grew up and tried to make do with certain things that the society offered them. A child who never grew up with the father, at the end of the day submits himself under the leadership of someone who is a cultist, because we all need somebody to affirm us, somebody to look up to. They submit themselves to people who are, some of them submit themselves to cultists, some of them submit themselves to armed robbers, some of them submit themselves to people who at the end of the day begins to use them as weapons of mass destruction. Why? Because there was no definition on their life. There was no guidelines on their life. Nobody gave them purpose. Nobody gave them purpose. They did not grow up in a home where they saw a reason to live their life far beyond themselves. And so they ended up submitting themselves into something that was going to destroy them. And as much as we hate to admit the fact that some of these people, because sometimes we talk about how some of these people have been brainwashed. I mean, how can you send somebody to put bomb on themselves and send them to a place and ask them to go blow themselves? Who brainwashed them? Who talked to them? Who talked to them? Who brainwashed them and all of that stuff? All of these things are issues that we fail to address in our society today. We have to understand that the moment we decide to break out of that family, there is something in the life of your children that gets broken that can never be mended. The moment you decided to take a walk and leave your spouse and decide to go be something else, there is something in the life of that child that has been broken for life, that can never be mended anymore. Sometimes when all you had to do is come home and your child sees you, it can be the most act of heroism that one can ever see. Sometimes if all you had to do was wake up every morning and make food for them and just sit down with your husband, the things your children see you do every day implants certain disciplines in them. It implants certain things in them, in their subconsciousness, that they tend to live by at the end of the day. Some of the children we take these days, we take for deliverance this day, that we tell ourselves that we don't know how they turned out to be this, we don't know how they turned out to be this and that. Seriously, you don't know how they turned out to be who they are in the society. You know, I attended a parents teachers conference. My church does this parent teachers conference from time to time, where they bring in speakers, you know, from who comes to teach people about parenting. And some of us don't even know that parenting is actually something that's serious and can be taught. And one of the speakers was talking, and they found out that in any family where a child is addicted to pornography and porn, that something triggered the algorithm and brought it into that house. Take, for instance, your house right now. You know, the way the algorithm works in the social media space today, or the internet works these days, is that there are certain things that can never come into the house if you don't show interest in them. And so sometimes when you hear people say things like, this thing just come into my mobile devices and this thing just come into my phone and I didn't know about it, I don't know how it came. Sometimes there is somebody in that house that is triggering that thing and is bringing that algorithm into that particular topography, into that particular area. And so when your child is addicted to something, have you ever sat down and you thought about something? In your subconsciousness, you thought about something and you just go through your phone. You were just thinking about the bag. You were just thinking about a piece of equipment. It can be anything, and you just went to your phone, and while you're scrolling on your phone, you just see it there. There are things that we do that triggers our interest, that trigger certain interests and bring them to our mobile devices. And so when your child gets addicted to certain things, ask yourself, don't just ask yourself where it came from. Make a personal assessment of yourself. How many times have you thought about things like this? How many times have you done things like this? Or how many times in your own closet that on your own you carried your phone and you started watching pornography? And so this becomes a norm in the family, where it becomes a norm in the family where this kind of things begins to happen, and you start asking yourself, where did my children pick this thing from? How did all of this thing happen? It happened from you. It happened from some of the things that you were doing with your mobile devices. And so let's be guided. Let's be guided. There is so much happening in our community today, in our society today. All of that can change. All of that can be better. All of that can be improved upon if we take seriously the thing that happens in our home. If you're not ready to be a parent, don't give birth. If you're not ready to give a parent, it's okay. Adopt a dog or something. You're right. Don't give birth to children and not take the time to be there for them. Don't give birth to children and not take the time to know what it's like to take care of them. Don't just give birth to children and think you are going to hand them over to somebody else to take care of them. Nobody is going to look after your child better than you're going to do it. All right? So rather than adding to the society, sometimes by deciding not to even give birth at all, you are helping the society a great deal, because you know that you cannot be there for a child. You cannot be there. You don't have what it takes to raise a child. So don't even do it. Don't even do it. All right. Thank you guys for being a part of today's episode. I know we took a different turn today, but that was okay. I believe that this was helpful and it was impactful. Don't just listen to this video alone. I need you to share this video. All right, share this video. You might be helping someone a great deal. All right, without you knowing. You know, our life is better or worse by the information we get exposed to. So please, this piece of information, don't keep it to yourself. Post it, share it, and send it to someone out there. And like you all know, my name is Freeman Achi, and I'm a photographer. This is what I like to do when I'm not behind the camera, when I'm not taking photographs. I like to talk about relationship. So I've left information on the screen on how you can book me. All right, I know your big day is coming up. You're about to get married, whatever event it is. Please, please, please use the contact on your screen. Put a call through. Reach out to me. I want to be there. I want to capture the most happiest moment of your life. Thank you so very much, and I look forward to hearing from you. Peace.